Chapter 271 Sword Fanatic Sword. Ji Juoken didn't stand down. He wielded the Judgment Sword and followed Fang Ling towards the rest of the Heaven's Gate disciples. Since when were Ji Juoken and Jing Zian afraid of anything? They loved trouble. Ji Juoken's competitiveness came to the surface as he was provoked. Initiating an attack was in line with his personality. Jing Zian didn't follow him. She had been greatly agitated by Huo Yuao earlier and hadn't recovered yet. Furthermore, she also felt something from the immense spiritual pressure that Huo Yuao had brought upon her. She needed some time to digest everything. Fang Ling quickly rushed back to his own territory. Everyone from Heaven's Gate naturally heard his confrontation with the Tang sect. The entire sect, including the two middle-aged men, gathered immediately. Ji Juoken lifted his sword and walked over. Bei Bei wanted to follow him, but he was stopped by Jing Zian. Let him have his fill. Otherwise, he'll vent it all on us. Bei Bei immediately sat down. He sighed slightly, and his eyes were filled with empathy for those from Heaven's Gate. Jing Zian's lips moved slightly. What kind of person are you? Bei Bei smiled and revealed his set of white teeth. I'm a good guy. Jing Zian looked over and shrugged her shoulders. Ever since she came to Tang sect, she had smiled far more often. Who are you? What do you want? One of the middle-aged men shouted at Ji Juoken as he walked over. Ji Juoken was holding the Judgment Sword. As he moved forward, his aura was changing tremendously. It was as if he and his surrounding environment had assimilated. However, the environment didn't assimilate with him. On the contrary, he assimilated with the environment. Everything surrounding him became extremely quiet. Even the birdsong that could be heard earlier disappeared. The colorful and radiant world turned dim and grey. The two middle-aged men started to turn serious. Ji Juoken finally stopped. Either you beat me or I'll beat you. As he spoke, he lifted his Judgment Sword and grabbed it with both hands. He lifted it high above his head. A weird glow extended from the sword hilt. Two yellow, two purple, and two black soul rings quickly rose from Ji Juoken's feet. However, these soul rings turned grey in the next moment. His entire body turned grey too. Solitary sword domain. The layer of grey started to expand at a frightening speed. The surroundings were dyed grey all around him. Huo Yuao finally opened his eyes. He was impressed. Brother Ji's domain is getting more and more complete. Those from the Heavenly Armor sect naturally noticed the confrontation that was going on. Han Zhan, who stood up and watched what was happening, when he saw Ji Juoken walk towards the Heaven's Gate disciples and unleash 6 soul rings, his expression changed. Although Ji Juoken looked older than 20, he was definitely not older than 30. For him to become a Soul Emperor at that age meant that he was the best among everyone of the same age. When Ji Juoken lifted his Judgment Sword and his soul rings turned grey, Han Zhan, whose expression also turned serious. He must possess great abilities given these strange things I'm seeing. This young man is extraordinary. The Heaven's Gate disciples wouldn't allow Ji Juoken to bully them, either. They quickly spread out. The two middle-aged men also unleashed their soul rings. Just like Ji Juoken, they were 6-ring Soul Emperors. However, the color of their soul rings was slightly different. One of them had 3 yellow and 3 purple soul rings, while the other had 3 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black soul ring. Evidently, it wasn't their first time teaming up together. The Soul Emperor with the 3 yellow and 3 purple soul rings retreated quickly. At the same time, he lifted a soul cannon to his shoulder. The soul rings on his body flashed, and his soul power undulations increased significantly. He was an orthodox soul engineer. The other middle-aged man stood in place without moving. As a clanging sound rang out, a thick suit of armor appeared on his body. The pitch black armor carried a little silver light. Evidently, it was created using some form of special metal. This armor, including a helmet, covered his body from head to toe. Not only that, but this close combat soul engineer even had a shield in his hand. The Heaven's Gate sect was a soul engineering sect. Besides these two middle-aged men, the rest also unleashed their soul tools. Feng Ling also wore a suit of armor and carried a shield. Furthermore, his armor seemed stronger than the middle-aged man's. However, he only had 4 soul rings. Bearing his shield, he protected himself like a turtle in its shell. It seemed as if he was afraid that no one would know he was fearful of death. Boom! An intense ball of white light was unleashed from the middle-aged man's soul cannon. The aggressor always possessed the advantage. Ji Juoken appeared in front of them, and his soul rings were the best combination a soul emperor could possibly have. These two middle-aged men from the Heaven's Gate acted very cautiously. They had unleashed the cannon strike to test Ji Juoken's abilities. The rest of the Heaven's Gate disciples were spread around them. Although they retrieved their soul tools, they didn't attack. Ji Juoken was alone. He had many compatriots who were resting. When the Heaven's Gate disciples saw his 6 rings, they were dumbfounded. Most of the people they interacted with only had 4 rings. There were even those who only had 3 rings. Just having the soul tools they did was considered quite decent already. Ji Juoken stood in place and slashed his Judgment Sword forward. His actions were simple and direct. The Judgment Sword turned black and accurately struck the soul cannon shell. The middle-aged man who had fired the cannon was stunned. Not only did Ji Juoken not avoid the cannon shell, he even struck it directly. What was going on? This was a Class 5 soul tool. Its explosive strength was tremendous. However, he was stunned in the next moment. The pitch black sword and burning white cannon shell contrasted each other. However, the cannon shell seemed to stall slightly as it made contact. It seemed to be on the verge of blowing apart, but it was swallowed by the black that came from the sword in the next instant. None of its energy was released. Ji Juoken was very confident. As he stepped forward with his left leg, he continued to slash with his sword. The previous black turned into a blinding brightness. In that instant, his entire person seemed to have turned into a silver sun. The intense brightness blinded the Heaven's Gate disciples temporarily. The silver light retracted amidst their groans. The close combat soul engineer holding the shield had already shifted from his position, retreating 3 meters. Ji Juoken stood where he was quietly. His Judgment Sword had lost its glow by now. A crisp clang resonated from the soul engineer that retreated. Following this, an astonishing scene appeared. A streak of silver light was released from his shield. It expanded like the patterns on a turtle shell. A crackling sound followed as the shield was turned into a pile of debris on the ground. Not only this, but the expanding silver light even appeared on his armor. It started from his helmet all the way down his body. His entire suit of armor cracked and fell off. The weird thing, however, was that he wasn't hurt at all. There were nearly 40 people on this empty patch of land. However, the entire patch turned eerily silent at this instant. Even the sounds of birds chirping couldn't be heard in this domain. The grayness seemed to be spreading ceaselessly. Everyone from the Heaven's Gate was engulfed. Ji Juoken's gaze was as cold as ever. However, he appeared much more disappointed this time. He gently shook his head and turned around. He placed the Judgment Sword on his shoulder and walked back towards the Tang sect. The grey domain followed him back. He was already very handsome, but in this brief fight, his suaveness had shocked everyone. He was a sword fanatic and only lived for fighting and swords. He wasn't an executioner. Moreover, that instantaneous control was something that he pursued. In his eyes, the Heaven's Gate disciples weren't fit enough for him to truly unleash his sword. Han Zhan, who was astonished. There was only one thought in his mind. If I were the one standing in front of him, what would I do against his sword? Ji Juoken's fighting method was one of a kind. He was neither a soul master, nor a soul engineer. However, he was very strong, especially in control. If he could tear his opponent's shield and armor apart, he could definitely tear his opponent's body apart as well. However, he didn't harm the man. He only threatened him with his sword, and caused everyone from the Heaven's Gate to freeze in place. Feng Ling was shivering and something wet could be felt at his crotch. Who did I just offend? The middle-aged man who unleashed the long-range strike took 2 steps forward and came up beside his partner. He asked softly, Senior, are you okay? He only saw his senior's pale face. His body shuddered, and he twisted his head to look at his compatriot. He whispered, let's leave. He quickly removed the remaining parts of his helmet and gestured towards the Heaven's Gate disciples. At this point, everyone from the Heaven's Gate moved away in a disciplined fashion. They were extremely quick, as if they were scurrying off. The fastest to flee was Feng Ling. His fat seemed to be filled with new strength now. Ji Juoken had already returned to Huo Yuao's side. He turned to look at Huo Yuao as if he were asking him something. Huo Yuao smiled and replied, obliteration of darkness, instant brightness. You are really impressive. You've merged with your sword. A smile was revealed on Ji Juoken's cold face. It was a rare smile. If you could move at all, I wouldn't be able to beat you. Huo Yuao chortled. That's hard to say. I'm only stronger than you in terms of my spiritual power. However, the sword intent formed from the combination of your spiritual and soul power is becoming more and more sturdy as you slowly grow. If this continues, you'll be stronger than me, at least in that aspect. Ji Juoken's eyes brightened. He seemed to understand something, and nodded towards Huo Yuao. Let me sleep a while. Huo Yuao was still laying on Wang Dong's lap. Okay. Ji Juiken acknowledged his words and returned to his original position. After those from the Heaven's Gate left, the Heavenly Armor sect also started to move off. Before they left, Han Zhanhu went over to speak to Bei Bei again. However, his tone of voice was rather different from before. He didn't dare to underestimate the Tang sect anymore. Those from the Tang sect also didn't stay much longer. After Hua Yuao woke up from his nap, they embarked on their journey again, proceeding towards Radiant City. At the same time, Wang Dongda dressed like a guy again for safety precautions. As Hua Yuao was in a wheelchair, they were moving much slower than before. It was already sunset by the time they arrived at Radiant City. Among all of them, Hua Yuao, Pikachu, Wang Dongda, Nana, Ji Juiken, and Jing Zian had been to Radiant City before. They weren't unfamiliar with this place. However, the rest of Shrek's 7 monsters were all astonished. Radiant City was the largest city on the continent. When they saw the tall buildings, they were even more shocked. Their expressions also turned more serious. All of them came from the 3 empires of the continent. As the biggest threat on the continent, a thriving Sun Moon Empire put great pressure on the other empires. Even Hua Yuao didn't know how strong the Sun Moon Empire was. They hadn't seen the truly great soul engineers from the empire yet. According to the information they were given, they had to complete their registration when they reached Radiant City. Although the previous registration had been completed, they still had to go through this round of registration to verify their arrival. The empire would then arrange for their temporary residence, as well as provide them with the tournament schedule. As they had competed in the last edition of the tournament, Shrek's 7 monsters were all profoundly moved as they arrived at the city. Compared to the congested streets of Star Luo City, Radiant City looked much more orderly. Although the crowds on the streets had increased, it didn't feel packed. This was the benefit of a huge city. Soldiers in iron armor patrolled the streets occasionally. Every squad was made up of 12 soldiers, all extremely disciplined. Although Hua Yuao had stayed in Radiant City for quite some time, he wasn't very familiar with the buildings here. He had been extremely invested in Soul Tools every day, and didn't have time to stroll around. However, there was someone else who was familiar with the area. Nana had grown up in this city, and was quite familiar with things around here. She was easily able to lead everyone to the registration area. It was a huge 8-story hotel. It was in the city center, and was called the Mingyue Hotel. It was entirely silvery white, and could be seen from a good distance away. Every story was quite high. Even though there were only 8 stories, it was still considered an extremely tall building in Radiant City. The lobby of the hotel gave off a metallic feel. Its internal decoration was identical to its external decoration, completely silvery white. Various streamlined decorations resembled exquisite Soul Tools and gave one the urge to touch them. The first feeling the hotel gave those entering was that it was simple, yet grand. At this moment, there were many people gathered in the lobby. When Hua Yuao and the others entered, they were immediately greeted by a young lady in a long silver dress. Greetings. Are all of you here for the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament? The young lady was tall and slender, and also very beautiful. Her long silver dress fit her body to a T, and extended all the way to her calves, looking quite elegant. She wore a light smile on her face and seemed very amiable. Yes. Shu Sanchi was walking in front, and he hurriedly acknowledged her words. The young lady smiled at him and said, I'll need all of you to wait because many teens have also just arrived. Follow me. As she spoke, she led everyone into the lobby. Before they moved off, she subconsciously glanced at Hua Yuao. This is weird. They are here for the tournament. Why did they bring someone in a wheelchair? Hua Yuao appeared to be very calm. He wasn't affected by the young lady's gaze. After everything that he had been through, he was more mature than most adults. However, he easily attracted attention as he sat in the wheelchair. As they proceeded to the bar in the lobby, many people appeared stunned when they saw him. The other members of the Tang sect subconsciously surrounded Hua Yuao, trying to block him from the limelight. The bar was at the east side of the hotel and covered 1,000 square meters. The bar was filled with white sofas made from genuine leather. They were led to one sofa, and the young lady left after greeting them. Immediately, a waitress in a short white dress walked over and served them some snacks and drinks. The service was exceptional. After the waitress left, Shu Sanchi said to Bei Bei, Little Bei, don't you find this an eye-opener? Bei Bei snapped, Call me eldest senior. What eye-opener? Look at you. You are turning lecherous again. Shu Sanchi immediately sat up straight and said, Don't spout nonsense. Who doesn't know that I'm the most honest and reliable person? There's only Nanan in my heart. Besides her, I won't even take a look at any other girls. Of course, that's excluding Dongda, Xia Xiao, Nana, and Sister Zian. Everyone grinned when they saw his honest expression. Hua Yuao also laughed. Third senior, are you really sure you were talking about yourself? Are you certain about that? Shu Sanchi was embarrassed. Yuao, don't embarrass me. I'm working in that direction. This is all because of Nanan. Although I attracted many girls with my charm in the past because I was too flirtatious, all I can do now is appear less lecherous. Bei Bei shook his head and sighed. How dare you call yourself charming in front of Brother G? Brother G. I'm not one who picks on others, but I think that Sanchi has made new discoveries in terms of his soul skills. Seeing how brazen his words are, when we settle down later, you must really spar with him to improve your cultivation. Shu Sanchi was furious. Bei Bei, you. Brother G, don't listen to his nonsense. I heard from him yesterday that his holy light dragon has awakened, and he has learned a new move. You should spar with him instead. Ji Juiken's expression didn't change. He only nodded at Bei Bei and said calmly, all right. After that, he turned to Shu Sanchi and also nodded at him before saying agreeably, all right. Both Bei Bei and Shu Sanchi were stunned. Bei Bei said helplessly, harming others without helping yourself. Is there any point in that? Shu Sanchi laughed coldly. What do you think? You were the one who started everything. Hikaiju was watching the two of them from one side, and was amused. He didn't make a sound, though. The ladies behind him were also smiling. When Bei Bei and Shu Sanchi were together, they always mocked each other less than 3 sentences after their conversation began. Hua Yuao shut his eyes as he heard his seniors bickering. It seemed like he was about to sleep again. However, Bei Bei and Shu Sanchi quieted down when they saw him shutting his eyes. They knew it represented something. Indeed, a weird scene was presented in everyone's mind at this moment. The image that surfaced in their minds was from a high point of view looking down at the hotel lobby. Everyone could be seen. They were presented in colors this time, but the colors were only limited to black. Purple, yellow and white. The number of people was also gradually decreasing. Hua Yuao's thoughts rang out in everyone's minds. I excluded those without any soul power undulations. Black represented a cultivation of at least 7 rings. Purple represented 4 or 5 rings. Yellow represented 3 rings and white represented 2 rings and below. From the looks of it, there were 34 people in black, 216 people in purple, 78 people in yellow, and less than 50 people in white. Everyone was shocked as they studied everything with the help of Hua Yuao's spiritual detection. With Hua Yuao around, they didn't need to use their eyes to see. They could just sense all the information. There were many teams competing in this tournament, and these people weren't all of them. However, there were more than 30 soul sages among those who were registering right now. Undoubtedly, they were the teachers and leaders of teams that were here to compete in the tournament. It also proved that many sects and academies treated this tournament very seriously. It was important to know that soul sages were a big deal everywhere on the continent. For this tournament, at least 1/5 of all the outstanding soul masters on the continent would be gathered in Radiant City. After briefly observing everyone in the lobby, Hua Yuao's spiritual detection started to change perspective. It was moved upwards and quickly saw through the main structure of the hotel. The Mingyue Hotel was made using a mixture of reinforced steel and concrete. Some of the more important areas were constructed using extra high tensile steel. There were rooms of varying sizes. The higher up they went, the larger the rooms were. Hua Yuao estimated that there were close to 2,000 rooms in this hotel, which itself covered more than 15 hectares. There were close to 200 rooms on each story, and more than 10 corridors. It was only such a huge hotel that could accommodate the number of people attending such a large-scale tournament. All the competing teams' members were staying in this hotel. Although it seemed a little packed, the hotel could accommodate everyone as long as 2 people shared one room. If it were any other empire, at least 3 to 5 hotels would be needed. This fact alone demonstrated how big and powerful the Sun Moon Empire was. After 10 minutes, Hua Yuao reopened his eyes. In these 10 minutes, he had used his spiritual detection to show his teammates the ranks of the Soul Masters registering in the lobby, the structure of the hotel, and the condition of the rooms. His spiritual detection managed to reach 500 meters in radius, with him as the center. Oh, a familiar face. Hua Yuao looked slightly stunned. Everyone looked over as they were guided by Hua Yuao's spiritual detection. There was a group approaching them, and all of them recognized their leader. She was the Star Luo Empire's princess, Her Imperial Highness Shu Juju, who had given them a lot of trouble in the last tournament. They didn't recognize the others behind her. After all, those who had competed in the last tournament were more than 20 now, and had to be replaced for this tournament. Shu Juju's personal visit was shocking enough. However, the bunch of youths following her were evidently top opponents too. They were selected by the Star Luo National Academy, and thus they were naturally the best of the best. The Star Luo National Academy had been one of the top 4 academies in the last tournament. Shu Juju was astonished right now. She was only looking at one person, Hua Yuao. Yes, she only walked over because she saw him. She didn't expect him to be in such a state. Hua Yuao? Shu Juju walked in front of everyone. All of them stood up to greet her, with the exception of Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao smiled as he faced Shu Juju. He said, "Your Highness, it's been a long time." Shu Juju was shocked. "I was curious when I saw the wheelchair. I was wondering which team brought along a disabled person. After that, I realized it was you. What happened to you?" Shu Juju respected Hua Yuao immensely. In the last tournament, Hua Yuao had led Shrek Academy to the end even though his cultivation was weak. In the final duel, he had defeated the strongest pairing from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, the Hinchan siblings, and won the championship. At that point in time, the Emperor of the Star Luo Empire had appraised Hua Yuao highly. After the tournament ended, he even sent someone to investigate Hua Yuao's background. He even knew that Hua Yuao entered the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy as an exchange student. The Imperial family of the Star Luo Empire had also monitored Hua Yuao closely, as he developed quickly. When they realized Hua Yuao had entered the Sea God's Pavilion, they placed more attention on him than ever. The Emperor of the Star Luo Empire, Shu Jian, had once told Shu Juju that Hua Yuao was Shrek Academy's future. However, he was sitting in a wheelchair now. Was he really the one-of-a-kind talent who possessed twin martial souls, an ultimate martial soul, great fighting abilities, and almost limitless potential? Shu Juju's investigations had revealed that Hua Yuao was from the Star Luo Empire. Although his background was unclear, it was a fact that he was from the Star Luo Empire. While Shrek Academy was huge, it was only an academy. Even if Hua Yuao took on an extremely important role in the academy in the future, he wouldn't be at the academy forever, and would have to venture out occasionally. That would be the Star Luo Empire's chance. Shu Jian had personally instructed her that Hua Yuao had to be pulled over to the Empire once he ventured out from the academy. If he could serve the Empire, he would become a pillar of the Empire in the future. Every one of them knew that Hua Yuao could become a transcendent dueler in the future with his potential. Furthermore, he could even reach the level of an ultimate dueler. What did an ultimate dueler represent? A strategic existence. Shrek Academy only became an existence that no empire dared to trifle with because of Elder Mu. If a tidal dueler could obliterate a city, an ultimate dueler could change the outcome of a war. Although there was an unspoken rule that a soul master of a certain level couldn't attack ordinary people, the threat that a strong soul master brought to his enemies was already quite terrifying. Over the past few years, the Sun Moon Empire's military had been very active. The Star Luo and Heavenly Soul empires were under great pressure. This was especially true for the Star Luo Empire, the second strongest empire on the continent. If they could pull Hua Yuao, and even Shrek Academy, over to their side, the Star Luo Empire would become strong enough to challenge the Sun Moon Empire. After the last tournament ended, why did the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's left arm bone end up in Hua Yuao's hands as if it were a gift? It was baked by the Emperor of the Star Luo Empire. It was just that they didn't have a chance to interact after that. Today, Shu Juju was shocked to find out that Hua Yuao was seated in a wheelchair. His face was pale, which revealed that he was suffering from some kind of sickness. As she had been monitoring Hua Yuao, she was clear on how important he was to Shrek Academy. He had ended up in such a state even though he was protected by Shrek Academy's title Duo. What exactly had happened? Shu Juju was sharp enough. She could tell that there were indeed problems with Hua Yuao's legs. Furthermore, his left arm also seemed very stiff. They were drooping and not in line with his body. He didn't seem to be acting. "Thanks for your concern, Your Highness. I only ran into some problems." Hua Yuao answered her calmly. Hua Yuao was impressed by how the Emperor had tried to pull him over to his side. He also had a deep impression of Shu Juju. It was a pity that Shu Jian and Shu Juju didn't know that Hua Yuao had a close relationship with the White Tiger Duke. It was also precisely because of the White Tiger Duke that Hua Yuao had his own plans. He couldn't be pulled over to their side. It couldn't be any small problem since he was in a wheelchair. Shu Juju furrowed her brow, but she couldn't possibly point this out. She hesitated for a moment. She greeted the rest of his team politely before asking Hua Yuao, "Since you are already in this state, can you still compete? Furthermore, all of you are the reigning champions. Why are all of you waiting to register? According to the rules, the top 8 from the previous tournament have registration priority. We just completed our registration." Hua Yuao replied, "We are not representing Shrek Academy this time." As he said this, Shu Juju's expression changed again in astonishment. They aren't representing Shrek Academy. She scanned everyone and saw the complete lineup from the last tournament. None of them were missing. Why aren't they representing Shrek Academy? As the princess and leader of the intelligence department, Shu Juju started to overthink things. When she took into account Hua Yuao's body condition, she immediately believed that Shrek Academy was in huge trouble. Bei Bei could tell that she was thinking too much from her expression. He hurriedly said, "Your Highness, you are overthinking. We aren't representing the academy because of the new rules. However, we are still a part of the academy. The academy sent another team over." Shu Juju was stunned for a moment. Her expression was then restored, and she said in shock, "If all of you aren't representing the academy, then..." Bei Bei smiled and replied, "We are representing the Tang sect." Tang sect? Shu Juju didn't have a deep memory of this ancient sect that had disappeared for years. However, the Tang sect had once been famous on the continent. That was why she quickly reacted. "All of you have joined the Tang sect?" Shu Juju asked. "Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read."